is Clayton Howe's Entertainment X. For this episode, I chat with Beth Leavel, and we cover a little bit of everything from work ethic to kindness to the 42nd Street tour and early inspirations in entertainment. So I hope you enjoy this part one with Beth Leavel. We're back. I'm Clayton Howe, and today with me on Zoom is Beth Leavel. Beth, thank you for joining me today.
You are so welcome, Clayton. Thanks for asking.
Of course. So much I want to talk about with you. I promise we won't go through the whole resume. It's quite extensive. Before we get to any of that, I want to take it back to the beginning of time for you. What were your entertainment dreams growing up?
I had none. Good night. See you later.
All right, that's it.
No, I'm not kidding. It's I still to this day don't really understand where Beth, I'm using air quotes, Beth Leavel came from. I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina. My parents never went to the theater. There was no theater really to see. I didn't know what musicals were until my senior year in high school. And someone asked me to audition for the spring musical, which was Brigadoon. And that's the first time I had any kind of being in the oxygen of like-minded people and souls like myself that I never even knew existed. So that's when my entertainment dreams started to give birth. And I, remember doing your first high school musical, and we were going to go on tour. We were so good. And that was, it's like, I know, Brigadoon, we're going to tour the country. But that was the first time I thought, oh my gosh, what is this feeling? What is this dream, this passion that I'd never really known about before that? So thank you, Broughton High School in Raleigh, North Carolina, for Brigadoon. Was there a particular moment, a defining moment when you're like, this will be my career, or I'm going to really take a whack at this? Yeah, no, I didn't think having a career in show business was a possibility. And neither did the people in like my family or anyone else. They wanted me to be quote unquote normal and get a quote unquote normal job and get a normal career and get married and have kids and all that kind of good stuff. It wasn't until college. And I have a degree in social work counseling because I just didn't know what else to do, but I have a minor in theater. And that's when I started doing everything I could get my hands on, including community theater and theater at the, North Carolina State University, and I just started to immerse myself in everything that was theater. And by the end, and once again, a thank you to teachers everywhere, because without certain teachers in my life, I'd probably still I'd be a social worker, and I'd be a dang good one. Not really. I'm too empathetic. I'd be like, but that's when at the end of my senior year, my teacher said, why don't you try New York? And I'm like, you're out of your mind. Because I'd been to New York twice. Once in 6th grade with my parents, which was the Lions Club International Convention. And I remember thinking it was the most terrifying yet fascinating place I'd ever been in my life. Just a quick story while I'm thinking about it. Please. So I was in 6th grade, and I was with my mom and dad and their friends. And my dad said, would you like to go to a Yankees game? Which meant riding on the subway. And my mother said, or you can go with me to see Mame starring Angela Lansbury. And guess what I chose? The subway ride to Yankee Stadium. I'm thinking, something have happened to me then, little 6th grade Beth, if I had seen Angela Lansbury and Mame and had that experience? But I don't remember anything about the game. I just remember the subway ride. Yeah. Anyway, so that was my first experience in New York City. My second experience was when I went, with the bus from North Carolina with my college. And we left at 7:00 at night and got there at 7 a.m. And my first Broadway show was a matinee of Grease. Fantastic. Yeah. And we were on the back row. I mean, the very back row of the balcony. And what I remember about that show is that the person in front of me was eating a pastrami sandwich and I was starving. Isn't that a great memory? Don't remember really. I remember a car, but we were so back, I so far back, and all I could think about was that. Please let me have a bite of your sandwich, please. Oh my God, I love it. Was there a moment after college, university for you,
where it started to really click? A particular, like an inciting moment, I guess.
Yeah.
Is there one that come to mind?
What happened was when she suggested I move to New York, and I just said, absolutely not, I'm too terrified. I went and I have an MFA. I have a master's degree in fine arts in acting and directing that I got from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And I remember not one specific moment, but that entire 2 years being immersed. That's when I felt like I was starting to really understand I was going to be an actor. I had to be an actor. Mm-hmm. There was nothing else I wanted to do or could do very well. So I remember my first black box experience, the little black box studio. Never had experienced that. And I did some obscure, absurdist two-hander play. And I remember thinking, I'm an actor. I have a caftan on and I am acting. That's that moment. I just felt like I was finally a member of this community, this tribe. And I just had to see what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Lo and behold.
What did your parents teach you about work ethic?
They had a great work ethic, and they kept, my mother was a florist. My father worked for Coca-Cola Company until he kind of had a job like Don Draper in Mad Men. He transferred to WRAL Television, the ABC affiliate, and he sold commercials in the 60s and 70s. And then he retired, but he never stopped working. He retired to a travel agency and would set up tours to see, ironically, theater in New York or the, Radio City Rockettes and stuff like that. They were constantly work. And I think they really were excited for me to get all this theater crap out of my system. So I could finally, maybe not starve, the life of a starving artist and come to my senses. But then they started seeing me in shows, and I think that changed their mind. And then one year I made more money than my father did. And it was like, okay, she can be an actor now.
It's a real job.
It's a real job. And then they saw one of my first big jobs was the first national tour of 42nd Street. And they were just gaga for that. They saw it as much as they could. So, and then then I was good.
Locked and loaded. Through all the research and through speaking with you a number of times up to this interview, I've just gotten the distinct impression that you ooze kindness. And I'm curious. I mean, I'm guessing it's always been the case.
Yeah, but it's annoying.
Where did it come from? I guess another question along the lines of what your parents taught you about kindness.
I think, I'm not blaming it all, quote unquote, blaming it all on my Southernism. That's just honestly who I am. And I'm not like kind and sweet 24/7. I mean, ask my fiance, he'll give you a really insight into that. but it's just, I lead with it. It brings me joy, and I just think, what the world needs now.
Yeah.
So if I can do my little part, then I'm going to do it. Plus it makes me feel better if I ooze.
Yeah.
That's going to be the name of my autobiography. Oozing kindness.
I love it.
Way to feel better about yourself and change the world one nicety at a time.
One ooze at a time. Do you have any mentors, or have you had any mentors? And are there any standout lessons that come to mind?
Great question. My mentors were my teachers at the time, Linda Banford at my undergraduate school, and Dr. John Joy, who was such an influence on me when I went to grad school, because he had been in 3 Broadway shows, maybe 4. And he wore leather pants and knew how to talk the talk. And I just worshiped him. And he cast me in Dolly and Hello, Dolly as my thesis. And he just had believed in me so much that I wouldn't be here without that support, without that, literally without that encouragement. And then I swear, each show I've done, I learned from, particularly growing up, the first national tour, 42nd Street, and subsequently I went and did Anytime Annie in the Broadway show. And those, Bobo Lewis, Bebe Osterwald, those broads who I just would go out to dinner with them or go out and have a beer after the show and just would listen to their stories. And, because they were like my age. So which is really horrifying, I think now. Oh my God, I'm that role now. I'm the one that the people want to go, oh, Beth, tell me about when blah, blah.
Right.
And those women really, I just learned so much from them. And work ethic, stage presence, the joy of theater and the downside of the theater and how to cope with all of it and still want to do it.
Yeah.
I feel like I've had someone in almost every show that's taught me something, or that I just need to go and sit down and have a conversation with because I'm going to learn something.
Yeah. Was there, sorry to make you dive even deeper, but was there a particular moment with them where they gave you like a particular piece of advice on a certain situation, or does anything come to mind? A specific.
I remember having my feelings hurt by another actor. I don't remember what, but it was something like I was getting a laugh and, it upset somebody. And I remember one of the women looked at me and said, honey, get over it. I went, oh, okay. So it's not the end of the world. And I'm just not going to claim. That's why I'm nice too. I'm not going to claim anybody being mad at me for getting a laugh and stuff like that. But yeah, they taught me a lot of that stuff. Like, buck up.
Yeah.
It's all right. Just do your job. Just do your job.
I love it. Sometimes that's a great piece of advice. Just get over it.
Get over it. Don't take it so personally. Maybe they're having a bad day.
Yeah. Is there a particular role that has taught you the most about yourself?
Wow. Probably, I'd have to say the roles that I've originated. Because I'm just so lucky to have originated a handful of roles, and they're written for your voice, for your comedy, for your acting, for your energy. And like I look at Dee Dee in the Prom, even though, she's not the nicest person in the world, but I just learned so much about, even more so than Drowsy Chaperone, I felt Prom, which is such an imposter thing that we do as actors. I felt like it was the first time I really felt like I was good.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and that's strange.
That
and
is.
It gave me, it's like, oh gosh, I shouldn't be. I have so much to do and so much responsibility for this show. I hope I'm good enough. I hope, blah, blah, blah. And then the Prom, I went, yeah, you are. You're doing this. Yeah, you're doing a good job with this. Dee Dee and Beth really get along quite well together.
Huh. And that was just a mesh of the character in you. It was just clicking. That's all it was.
Pretty much. I remember the first table read we did, which now would be probably 8 or 9 years ago. And I knew that the role had been written for me, this narcissistic, bitchy diva whose career was going down the toilet. It was like, great. Yeah, okay. But man, was she funny. And, at the end had this heart of gold and was able to change her path. Anyway, yeah, that's what's written for me, that bitchy role. I love her. I love her.
Such a great show, too. Such a great show. Is there a balance you find between making things happen and letting things happen in your career?
I'm clicking. That's like so deep. Yeah. I kind of feel that's a really good question. And probably I would, depending on what day you ask me, I might have 2 different answers. I am of the belief that I just let it happen. However, when you first move to the city, you can't just sit in your apartment going, okay, let's let it happen. I mean, there's certain steps one must take. Like you're preparing, learning your craft. Your picture and resume, your song choices, discovering what, for lack of a better word, type you are, what songs or what audition, how are you going to get work? All that groundwork you need to do. But after that, I find that I think because I'm very professional and kind and I do the best I can, I keep getting work. And the first time I knew, I was reading a breakdown of something and it said Beth Level type. And I was like, I almost burst into tears. I was like, the Beth Level, what does that mean exactly? I was like, you know what that means. means, kind of broad comedy, over the top, heart of gold, belt. Okay. Oh, I see. So I'm at the point in my career, and it's been this way for about 10, 15 years, where I just kind of let it happen. And I'm available, and hopefully work will keep coming my way.
Yeah.
Directors usually hire me again, which is great. But yeah. And I'm wondering, if I didn't have the relationship with directors, then I'd probably have to make it happen. Which is, the other part of your question. Do I let it happen or make it happen? And I'm not, and I know a lot of people, and that also doesn't mean that I don't audition. I audition all the time. Not for Casey Nicola and people I know, but like for television, stuff like that, where they have no idea, nor do they give a shit who I am. Like, we don't care, audition, that I really have to more make happen. But it's like, I'm not 20 or 30 either. So I'm kind of loosening that up a bit, and like, let's see what happens next. And then, The Devil Wears Prada came up out of the blue.
Right. Or not out of the blue.
Exactly. Well, work begats work. And that's another thing that I'm sure is very frustrating, that I do a lot of coaching, and my students say, well, how do I get work? And my agents and everybody goes, well, you just we need to see you work. You say, well, how do I get in a show if I can't get, that kind of catch-22? And the reason I got Devil Wears Prada is because the director, who I didn't know at all, came and saw the Prom. And she didn't want to come and see the Prom, but the lyricist Shana Taub made her come and see the Prom because she had seen it before. And apparently, rumor has it that about halfway through Act 1, the director, Anna Shapiro, leaned over and said, "Oh, I found her." I had no earthly idea. And then the rest is history.
You've been listening to Entertainment X, the podcast. You can follow Entertainment X on Instagram at _EntertainmentX_. If you haven't yet, go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join Clay next week for another curiosity conversation on Entertainment X. Thank you for listening.